Hello and welcome to episode 1. Or is it episode 9? Well, let me explain the confusion for you. It so happens that Giant has released a version 1.5 of Farming Simulator, which in turn means that my good friend, or whatever you want to call it, I don't even know the man, Stevie, he has released version 1.5 of his Fenton Forest map, which I am so deeply grateful for because I like that he keeps it updated, even though he has said that this is going to be the last update for this map. Let's just hope that Giants is not planning to make any substantial changes to the game in that sense. So because otherwise this map could be, well, not useless, but be, well, unsuitable for that kind of for the version. But nevertheless, we are back, and whenever Stevie releases a major upgrade for his map, we need to redo the save game. So yes, just once again, we have started completely over. But in the last time what I did was that I sort of made my way up to where I left you in the former episode and then started from there. And I do still think that that's a reasonable good way to do things, and I don't regret it, also that, but I wanted to do things differently this time. Now, complaining about a map maker making an update for his map is ridiculous. It would be something like complaining about Microsoft plugging the holes in their operating system and making updates. So obviously I'm not going to complain about that, but I think that you all of us know that little bit of annoying feeling you have when you read that, well, you have to redo your save game, and you just think, especially when we're doing seasons where we are sort of time constrained. We get a season and then we get a new season. Also with the animals, because they don't produce right away, and you know what I mean. But nevertheless, well, that's just the way it is, and we're going to have to deal with it. The good thing about starting over, at least in my opinion, is that you sort of begin to think about what could you have done differently. And there are some considerations I have thought about, and I'm going to take you through them right now. Yeah, let's take a look at the map, the farm as it is. So this, we have the cleaner, we have the deaf selling station over here. I have not changed that. We still use class equipment all the way around. I've put in a shed for the equipment right here. And we have the other sheds that we have used to. We have the animals trailer. That hasn't changed. I haven't also changed anything about the equipment here. So at least some things are as they were before. But some of the buildings I have changed around with. First of all, this building here. This is a fermenting silo by Stevie. So what does it do? Well, it ferments stuff. So we can put in bulk materials. In this case, it would be fermenting silo, open view. We can put in bulk materials. That means that we can put in chaff, grass, sugarcane, or we can also put in silage. If you put in silage, you get silage. Well, makes sense, right? But chaff, grass, and sugarcane, that's what we can put in. It seems reasonable. So that's the one building, and that is because I think I've decided that I don't want to deal with the clamp silo. You can also see, if we look at the next building, which is down here. Oh yes, let's just, the cow mixer is over here. And some other changes that I've made, I have introduced the global company mod which is why when we get close to some of these buildings, well, apparently not this one, but at some point it should. Maybe it's because it isn't turned on. Let's turn it on. Yeah, there it was. You have to be really close in order for it to. But there you can see we can put in straw, silage, and dry grass, and then we will get total mix ration out of it. Also, I have ordered the the water supply for all the pens, which I'm going to tell you about a little later, is for some of them not necessary. So the final thing, and I have read about this on some Danish pages, that this is actually a thing. You can also do it with crops, but I don't think they have found a way to implement it yet. But this is a hay dryer, which means that you put in wood chips, because you need heat, right? Then you put in grass over here. It's going to sit and then put it up. And then this machine here is going to supply heat for drying the grass. It's sort of like a clothing drying machine just for hay. So this machine here is going to keep this hayloft here nice and toasty, so that the hay can dry out in an orderly fashion. Now, because we need wood chips in order to do this, and I sincerely hate, I do really hate logging. I think I'm going to do this as little as possible. So when we can mow the grass, if the weather forecast says pluses down here, 2 pluses, a couple of days, I'm definitely going to let it dry out, but it is sort of an emergency case. If we really do need hay, we can put it in here and dry it here. So these are the building considerations. I might put up, as you can see, the old clam silo was here. I have removed it, sold it, and then put in this building instead. But it might be that I want to reintroduce the clam silo once again. And then I'm going to do that, and we can fumble around with it, because I really don't like working with the clam silo. I think it's annoying. But on the other hand, I can also understand why there's something a little bit cool about it. I can understand that. But yeah, let's take a look at some of the new equipment. I think I parked it over here somewhere, perhaps. Not sure. I should have the the telehandlers over here in order to lift bales. I bought this new water wagon here. It holds 900 liters more than the other. It holds 900 liters more than the other wagon that it's over there by the house. So we're going to use that to fill up these 100%, just like it's supposed to be. We're going to use that to fill up the greenhouses. Alright, let's take it while I'm here. I have decided, because I have tested out on my private farm, as I call it. When you turn off the... Let me just show you. When you turn off the horse helper here, we can also extend it placeables, that's okay. When we turn off the horse helper, we have 16 horses in here, right? In order to make, well, somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000, somewhere around that. Let's say 10,000. As you can see here, the horse helper is 300 per horse per day. So 300 times 16, that is somewhere around 4,000 or something like that. Dollars, or in this case, euro per day. That is a heck of a lot of money. That's almost half of the income from the horses. Now, we will get income, that's true. But it's not really... It's not something to say hurrah for. So I'm going to remove the horse pen. Also, the chicken pen. And why I'm going to remove the chicken pen? Well, simply because I think they are boring. To be honest, I think they are so boring. Now you could... I know that I have used the pallets for the egg pallets and placed them here and got a lot of eggs in the pallets, and that's okay. I like that. But yeah, and they're not really that of a nuisance, right? They need water, they need food, they need water. They don't need that much food, but I don't find them interesting, to be honest. I don't mind chicken at all. I think I think they are a reasonable good way to earn money or to get by. Now, I will say this. If they had implemented the same way that you can do in Farmer's Dynasty, that you can actually go out and pick up the eggs and then go into the house and cook them, and you need them for eating, then I would keep the chicken pen here. But for money making, well, no, not really, right? So this is going to, let's just do this right now. Then there's no way turning back. So let's find the horses mod with ape and yeah, blah blah blah. Sell. And the chicken. Sell. So now we have a little bit of empty space here. And also up here. We might put in a equipment shed there, something like that. And maybe even some other equipment. I'm not sure about building, something like that. I'm not sure about that. But yeah. One other thing that I've noticed that Stevie has added to the map at some point, maybe it's been here all along, but I'm not sure about that, is that we can get compost. We can sell it. But other than that, I really haven't found out what we can use it for. So, well, maybe we're going to do that together on this playthrough here. Alright, so the final thing I'm going to show you is down here at the cow pen. Because I decided to buy something that I did on my private farm, or my farm that I play when I don't play with you, I guess, something like that. and get ready for a laugh. This is the smaller class, the class Torian 956 Sinus. The bigger one is called wheel loaders. Let me see. Yeah, 1914. But I think this is suitable for what we need. But please look at this. It looks ridiculous. This this shovel here. This is it called a shovel? I can't even remember. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? No, bucket. Yeah. This high dump bucket here is almost as big as the loader itself. I know this looks completely ridiculous. It looks like if you put something up here, then this machine here would go heads, tails, or down. But we're going to use it because now we are getting cows on this farm. I really like feeding the cows. I'm not sure why, but I just like it. And they produce a heck of a lot of manure. Then we're going to use that high dump bucket there to move the manure. And that is also one of the reasons I have considered getting at some point the what was it called? The clam silo, because, well, you know, we can use this, right, to get a lot of it, and it holds 8,000 liters, so you don't need to scoop that many times before you have a lot of silage. But like I said, I have ordered all of these, so they're going to be installed at some point. Next day, I guess, at 8 o'clock. So let's, now I have talked all what I wanted to talk. Let's restart the time and do this episode the proper way. So let me see, like that. Let's move this as the first thing we do. So I have figured out that, as far as I could tell, the best way to buy the sheep sorry about bumping the mic. The best time to buy the sheep would be, I suppose it was, let me just check it when I have parked this trailer here. Like that, almost. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, let's check it out. Alright, I need to go to the sheep pen. I think it was called Merino. Can't remember what the sheeps were called, so that's why I go to the sheep pen. Something is missing, right? This is where the chicken pen went. Chicken mod, as Stevie would call it. Let me see, it's here. Let's take a look. Medium breed, rule for rule. Yeah, it was Merino. Alright, so... Hey, was that a new icon? Yeah. Alright, I think so. Let's take a look and find the Merino. The animals. Merino. Where are they? There. No, the sheepies were somewhere around, well, something like late, early autumn. Well, the last part of early autumn. It's the best time to... So in autumn is the best time to buy the sheep. The early autumn. The cows... Let me just check the pigs, because I can't remember their name as well. There we are. And that was Berkshire. Most known for flavorful meat. Known for the carcass quality. Old Spot. I think it was the Yorkshire we actually had. Alright, so let's take a look at those. The Yorkshire. It's the same. It's almost like late autumn is the best time to buy these. And the final, it was Holstein. Well, it was the cows that were the cheapest in the last part of early summer. So the sheepies and the pigs are going to be bought in autumn. And the cows are going to be bought, that's the first thing we're going to buy. Those are going to be bought in early summer, somewhere around that. I think now what we're going to do is to take this big machine here, the Exerion 5000, and plow some. In that regard, I have also decided on something else. In the last part of my playthroughs, I decided that I wanted to speed up time whenever I did something I thought would be boring for you to see. I'm not going to do that this time. So this means that you're going to get the full experience of Michael playing Farming Simulator 19, FS19, or Farmulator 19. But it also means, you could say, that you're going to get, there's going to be a lot of time where you're going to see me driving back and forth with a plow, or with a slurry spreader, or with a lime spreader, or something like that. And that can't be helped when I want to play it like this. But I think that this is the most true way for doing it. And just get this plow straightened out so we can... Yeah, whoa. Yeah, okay. Relax. I think this is the best, the only true way of really doing it. This also means that I'm going to allow myself for making episodes that are a bit longer than I would otherwise do. So I said that I have to check that I didn't. Oh, yeah. One of the things I noticed is that I have added control on my... I didn't know that actually. I didn't realize it until I made a lot of holes in my farm on my private map. Is that when I press this button here on my steering wheel, I can change it from limit to fields to allow create fields. And I didn't know that, so sometimes I hit the wrong button and then I suddenly made a lot of fields all the places. And I couldn't figure out why it did that. But now I know. Let me see if I made a bunch of holes down. Yeah, alright. But nevertheless, this is how I'm going to play it through with you. So the plan for the upcoming episodes will be, first we plow both fields, and then we're going to spread slurry on them, which we're going to buy. Then we're going to spread lime on them, and then we're going to have to decide what we want to plant. Yeah, so that's it. So, what are we going to talk about now? Well, let me see. On my private farm, I tried to do all the animals at one point at the same time. Because I found if you do just 2 animals, for instance sheep and piggies, then there's a lot of time that you don't do anything. And for a private farm, for instance, if you have the horses, that's not really a problem, because then you can decide for yourself exactly how much time you want to spend on it. But on a playthrough series like this, I certainly think that it would be ridiculously boring for you to see me ride horses around for, and I think I calculated it that it was an hour and 2 minutes or something like that. An hour and 2 minutes, right? I can imagine that you would be bored out of your socks for seeing that. Because, oh, no, that was really not what I wanted. This was what I wanted. Because let's face it, the horses are nice, and I do think, well, I think that the horses in vanilla FS19 Farmulator was a great addition. I think that it was a reasonable good idea for you to be a horse breeder. So you buy horses, you shape them up, and then you sell them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that approach. But I also at the same time think that the team behind Seasons, with their idea of boarding horses and taking care of them instead of sort of shaping them up and selling them, is also a very good approach. The only problem I think there is with doing this is that it takes a heck of a lot of work, and the pay isn't that good. 10,000 a day, 10,000 euros a day. If you were to converted into Danish money, almost 100,000 kroner. So that's quite a bit of money, but per day that is. And obviously, if we talk seasons and divide 9 with 12 months and blah 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 blah, 1.5 months, something like that. 1 day is roughly 1.5 months, something like that. So it's 100,000 per month. That's also an okay pay. But the problem is, as I see it, and that's where I see it is. Sorry about that. Siri wants to talk with me again. The problem, as I see it, when we talk about doing horses using seasons in a playthrough with other animals, is that you're going to I calculated it, right? So it is roughly 5 minutes of riding per horse per day. That means, if my calculations were correctly, that it would roughly be, if you were to ride all 16 horses 1 day, it would be 1.5 hour. Not game time, real time. What it is 5 minutes real time. So you need to ride around the horses 5 minutes real time in order to get them to 100%. Now obviously you can choose not to do that, but then you don't get paid just as well. And it is a substantial increase for some of the black horses. It is going from roughly 200 to roughly 800 per day per horse, right? So that's the challenge as I see it. So it is roughly 6 hours per day in game time, something like that. You need to ride the horses around. Now, considering that you have to take care of the other animals, that you have to take care of the farm, that you have to take care of, well, anything else in the game, 6 hours per day, that's a pretty big deal. For winter, I know that in the winter time you usually don't do much on the farm other than take care of your animals. But 6 hours, that is almost, well, at least when you use the Danish geomod, that is almost the entire day. Well, I mean daytime when you have light, right? When the sun is up. So that's a heck of a lot of time to spend on dealing with these horses. So I think that my recommendation would be, when you play seasons, is that you decide for yourself whether you want horses or not. If you want horses, I would go with something like a chicken horse combo, because the chickens can give you a substantial amount of money when you have, let's say, 4 or maybe even 10 full pallets with eggs, if you use the egg pallet mod, which I really can't see why you wouldn't do that. But other than that, I would say that I wouldn't recommend adding any more animals to your farm at that point, because in my opinion, I think you're going to be swamped. Simply said, you're going to be swamped, especially in the days. Let's say that we had horses right now. I would have to make time for plowing this field, spreading slurry, perhaps even spreading lime. Not again. Wrong button. Now, one little comment here. I know this is not completely realistic. Obviously, you wouldn't start to plow in the middle of the grass. But I have tried different ways to make headland roads, and you have to drive, in order to get the full field done, you need to drive back and forth 2 times at every headland row, because obviously the plow is slanted. So if I were to stop with the first part of the board, the moldboard board, well, this is slatted boards, but nevertheless, at the end of the field, then there would be a little triangle patch that needed to be plowed in another way. And obviously you can do that with the headlands, but you have to go back and forth 2 times in order to do that. And to really not get you in too much pain of watching me plowing a field, then I thought it would be prudent to just, well, cheat a little and plow through. Obviously, because you can turn, allow create fields on and off. So yeah. No, I think that, let's get back to the subject before. I think that horses is a really good option, whether you do it vanilla or you do it in seasons. But I really think that if you want to do horses in seasons, especially in seasons, do horses then. Don't do cows, don't do piggies. Do horses, and then perhaps do one of the other relatively light animals, for instance sheep or chickens. Now the good thing about sheep is, like I've said a couple of times before, and also you need to change that part in which yeah, you need to change that part in the maps of especially this map here with Stevie. But generally, if you have a map where you don't oh well, no, let me start over. Sorry. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if you have followed my channel just a little bit of time, you know that I unfortunately digress a lot. I'm sorry about that. That's just the way my brain works. A little patch there. Alright, start over. The reason why the sheeps are relatively easy to deal with in seasons is that they have implemented a mod or some kind of functionality, which means that whenever you have fully grown grass in your sheep pen, and that goes for the cows as well, but I digress once again, they will eat the grass. Understood in that way that the grass will be cut by a magic fairy and and then be transported to the feeding troughs. Now I have tested it, and that depends of course on which map you're on and which geo is activated, but I have tested it, and you can actually go from relatively late spring all the way up to early winter, where the sheep only eat grass from the pen. Now obviously I know it depends on how many sheep you have. If you have 60 sheep, then you probably won't get by with just having the grass in the pen. But if you have, let's say, 10 or 20 sheep, you should be able to get by with the grass in the pen. So that's the reason why the sheep are relatively easy to deal with. The chickens, on the other hand, are relatively easy to deal with, because although you need to feed them every day in seasons, they require a ridiculous little amount of food and water that it will take you a couple of seconds, depending of course on where you have stored your crops. You can feed them wheat or barley, so in essence grain. That's the other thing that's a little bit annoying, or I would say not annoying, but just makes it a little bit harder to work with the horses, is that you need to feed them hay and you need to feed them, give them straw, but you also need to feed them oat. Now obviously they have added oat to the game, so you need something to do with the oat other than sell it. But it just means that you need to sort of add a completely different crop to your farm in order to feed all the animals. Now I know that in essence it's not that much. Like I said in one of my tutorials or introductory video for seasons, you only need basically 4 crops in order to feed your animals. You need grass, you need wheat or barley, you need oat, and then you need canola or sunflower or soybeans. And as far as I know that's it. That's really all you need. And obviously it's one of those crops. So it's 4 or 5 crops you need in all. And 4 or 3 if you discount oat. But oat is a cereal, just like wheat or barley. And that means you need to account for that in your crop rotation cycle when you do that. And that means that you need to spend a whole half season, a whole season, getting a crop that you can use only for the horses. So that's a bit of more work. You think about it. For the other animals, well, the cows, you can basically feed them with grass alone, because they need total mixed ration, and that's it. And for that you will need hay, silage, and straw. Well, obviously, but you get straw from your crops anyway. So basically you can feed them with grass. The sheep, well, they need hay or grass. Well, you already got that. The piggies, they need wheat or barley, sunflower, canola, or soybeans, and what was it more? Yeah, corn or sunflower, I think it is. That's what I forgot. And that's it. So basically you can do, if you discount the horses, you can do, in my opinion, with a relatively modest amount of field work in order to feed all your animals. Getting a forage harvester and, well, a clam silo or... Yeah, I did it the right way. Getting a forage harvester or a clam... getting a forest harvester and a clam silo, and then make it... It will... Turned... No. Yeah, alright, a little patch. That, yeah, alright. I'm not even sure the field needs to be plowed. Let's just check it. No, of course it doesn't. Well, nevertheless, we're going to plow it anyway, because then we don't need to plow it that much. Alright, where was I? Yes, with the clam silo and the forage harvester, it makes it even that more easy to get the materials you need for feeding your animals, feeding your cows, especially if you have a lot of cows, then that's really recommendable. But yeah, that would be my recommendation, and we're going to see whether it's going to work having both cows, pigs and sheep on the same farm. My experience from my private farm, where I got a lot, I almost got an entire season's work done, is that it is doable to have all of the animals. And obviously if you have the horse mod helper installed, whether you're using it from Global Company or you're using just the standalone mod, then obviously it's going to be that much easy to deal with the horses. So I'm pretty confident that it should be doable for us to, or for me, to have cows, pigs, and sheep on the same farm. And that, well, yeah, that reminded me what I was trying to say before, that since I've gotten a new update of Stevie's map, then I once again have to go in and change the foliage part in order to well, in order to be able to move the foliage from the pen into the troughs. I think it's a matter of, if you don't have foliage enabled, well, if you don't have foliage, that in this case foliage as grass, if you don't have grass both placed in your pen, if you make a custom pen, but also if you don't have it enabled, like I just showed you in one of my previous videos, if you don't have it enabled in the XML file, Seasons won't recognize that you have foliage in there and or grass in there, and obviously then it won't transfer it. I think that would make relatively good sense for most people. So I have to go and change that. But since we're not going to get animals for, well, some time now, then I do believe that I have a reasonable amount of time to get this done. So regarding feeding the cows, because feeding the pigs, well, that's just a matter of having the right ingredients and then giving it to them. And since the Seasons guys have removed the need for potatoes or sugar beets, well, that makes it even more easy, because then you don't need to store those crops at some point. You can use the silo, and that's it. Now, I'm pretty confident that Stevie probably has added the ability to put potatoes into the silo, but nevertheless, you would need another place to store them. You don't need that in Seasons, because you don't need to feed the piggies potatoes or sugar beets. But regarding feeding the regarding feeding the cows, I have decided to doing it the following way. Because I want to have that feature from Seasons. Well, it's not really a feature, but you can say it's a way of doing things in Seasons. When you and I've shown that also in one of my introductory videos or tutorials. When you mow the grass, sorry about that. When you mow the grass, and then you I'm just wondering why I'm getting a drop in frame rates for some reason. An annoying drop in frame rates. That was really not what I wanted. Alright, let's move it around. Okay, this is a bit of annoying. I'm just going to check it out, and then I'm going to get back at you. There we go. Alright. Turn off the tractor. Let's get this menu here and then save it as plow field 1. Edit. Yes, save. And then I'm going to see you when I figure out why the heck it's doing this. Be right back. So I've tried to turn down the quality of my recording from 100% to 80%. And I think it might be that I'm still using an old school hard drive instead of an SSD. And that is maybe the reason why it simply, the buffer gets overfilled. And that is why I get choppiness, because it cannot, well, to put it in a more technical way, it cannot transfer the frames from my graphics card to the hard drive, and then it's going to stutter because, well, the game recording is depending on what I see on the screen. So I guess I think that's maybe why it did that. Yeah. So let me tell you what I'm going to do. I was saying something before about how I want to do things regarding the cows. In particularly, it's about how I want to do it regarding making silage. So there are 2 ways I'm going to make silage in this game. The first is cutting grass. That seems completely reasonable. If you want to get silage, you can cut grass and then you can bale them and wrap them, and then you wait these 3 days, in-game 3 days, and then you have silage. The other way around is that if you plant corn or something like that, and then you use a forage harvester, and then you get chaff, and that chaff you can put into, well, either a clamp silo, or in this case here, the, what was it called? The fermenting silo. So these are the 2 ways that I'm going to do things here. So we're going to get a little bit of both. We're going to get a little bit of the global company mod. Because we're going to use the global company fermenting silo. Well, it's really not a global company fermenting silo, but it's a fermenting silo using the global company script. I think that's a more reasonable, correct way of saying it. But we're also going to see sort of the season's way of doing things, the real season's way of doing things, because we have to wait these 3 days before we get silage from either the clamp silo or the bales. That's the same. It's the same amount of time that goes. So if whether you have an 8 or 10,000 liter bale, round bale or square bale, or you have a clamp silo with 150,000 or 200,000 liters of chaff with a blanket on, you will have to wait the exact amount of time in seasons in order to get silage. And I would say in many ways that is even better than the vanilla way of doing things, because then you just get silage right away. You can also say that another consequence of having me sitting here and doing the plowing with you instead of just speeding up time, well, is that you're going to hear me talk a lot. Because, well, what else should we do, right? I can't even whip out my guitar and play a little melody for you because I'm missing 2 strings on it, so it's going to be, well, not sounding that good. And also it's been so much time since I've played on my guitar that, well, I probably wouldn't be able to play that many interesting tunes for you anyway. But yeah, and drumming, well, even though my son has a drumming set for children, that is, I'm pretty sure it must look really ridiculous seeing a grown man like me sitting with yeah, and now I pressed that allow create button. Seeing a grown man like me playing, and I went around the wrong way also. Well, it's going to be okay, I suppose. It must look really, really ridiculous. There we go. So that's also not an option. So what else is there to do for me other than talking with you? I would also like to make a little bit of commercial for my channel. Yeah. Those of you who are following my channel who happens to be Danish, I'm starting up a series with a new map called Nordfriesische Marsch, the North Frisian Marsh, which is a part of Holland. The reason why I'm doing it and I'm doing that in Danish, so my native language. Oh yes, I'm branching out a little bit. But the real reason why I'm doing this in Danish is that I got inspired from by Arthur Chapman, who had found this map and started sort of a storyline on it. And I thought to myself, well, that's a really good idea. I want to do something similar. And the thing is that he has found an extension for the global company script where you can make, well, a host of different things. You can make beer, you can make flour, sugar, you name it. You can make it. And you have to go through a relatively long process of doing these things. So if you want to do all the things by yourself, you need to cut down wood, lumber for making the pallets. You need to cut down, you need to harvest wheat, barley, and also, oh no, what was it called? Hops. And it's a really interesting and also really fascinating thing that most of the time I know what things are called in Danish, but I forget what they are called in English. This time, most of the time I actually can remember what things are called in English, but I then really can't remember what they're called in Danish. In this case here, it was the exact opposite. For once, I knew that hops, that is humle, in Danish, but I couldn't remember what it was called in English. Well, nevertheless, you have to sow and harvest wheat or barley. Well, that's obvious, right? And then you also need to sow and harvest hops, because that goes into brewing beer. Then you need to use your wheat or barley, some of it at least, for making malt. And then you have all the ingredients you need for making beer. So you need to put in wheat or barley. You need to put in hops. And you also need to put in the malt. And then you need a lot of water. And then again you need pallets. So you can put down several different buildings, and I've done that in that series. You're going to see that when I release it. I need to edit it first, of course. So I put down a sawmill where you can make the pallets, and you also get some what's it called, sawdust, wood chips. Then you also have a factory where you can make malt. And then of course finally you have the brewery where you make the beer. Now, the clever thing about global company, and I can show you that when we are done plowing the fields, that will probably be in the next episode, I must say that. But the clever thing about sorry, I just needed to consider which way I wanted to drive. The clever thing about global company is that, well, you can decide for yourself what you want to do. So if you don't want to spend an insane amount of time, and you do, I have tried it out on the gameplay now. You do need to spend some time doing all of these things, particularly the lumbering parts, the when you need to get the wood. Well, I really don't like chopping down woods, especially when you use the chainsaw. If you use the Scorpion King, or the Scorpion, is it called Scorpion King or Scorpion? Nevertheless, the automatic wood machine, then it goes a lot faster, and you can decide how long the log should be, and it will cut it for you, and it goes pretty fast. But moving the logs you have chopped down or cut down from the ground up into the wagon, and then transporting it to the sawmill, and then moving it from the wagon to down into the sawmill. I think it's, I really don't like it. I'm sorry to say. Those of you who love doing logging in Farmulator, well, congratulations. I really don't like it. Give me a plow and a seeder and a tractor, and then I'm going. But logging, no thank you. But it's okay. And then you get the pallets, and then you yeah, it was pallets. And then when you have the pallets, the thing is that you need to put in the pallets both places. So you can just make a bunch of pallets and then put them into the malt production, for example, because then you're going to miss some pallets in the beer production, the brewery. But one of the things I haven't noticed yet, which I think we should probably, I will check out, if you follow that, if you're Danish. Well, if you don't speak Danish, I suppose you could follow it in any way, especially if you enable the horrific YouTube auto subtitles. You could probably understand some of it, but I'm not sure. But if you just want to see what I do and you don't really have any interest in what I'm saying, I can understand that. And you also don't have any interest in the story or something like that. Well, I suppose you could follow that series even without even without speaking Danish. But it would be, I suppose it would be really helpful for you if you actually spoke Danish when watching it. Nevertheless, there's a lot of work to be done, and one of the things that I need, yeah, that was the thing. One of the things that I might have to check out is that alright, so you take the pallets from the sawmill, and then you, for example, put them into the malt production. And the reason why you need to put pallets in there, because obviously you don't need wood in the malt. You don't put wood into the malt, but you need pallets, because then you get that malt packaged into little bags that are put onto the pallets, and then you move that pallet with bags from the malt production to the brewery. Now obviously, if you think about this, what goes on inside the buildings, then you would remove all the bags from the pallet, but then you would have a pallet, right? You don't just, well, you don't just chop up the pallet and put it into the beer. You have an empty pallet. So the thing I was wondering is, when you put in the pallets to the brewery, do they get added as pallets, as some number of liters, or are the pallets just gone? I haven't noticed that, but maybe I should do that the next time I play on the series, because, well, then you really just need pallets one place. Alright, so you might ask yourself, well, Michael, you are playing Farming Simulator and doing content for YouTube. While you're, well, alright, let me just, I digress. Maybe I should give you some context first before I start out rambling about why I don't want to do specific things. So the context for me choosing to do like I have done here is that I don't mind putting out content on YouTube where I play the same games as people I follow. They play the same games as well, because, well, in some sense I'm competing with them. I would do that anyway, because they can't watch, for example, a video of Paul Suarez Jr. while they are also watching me. They can choose to watch his first and then mine, but they can't watch both videos at the same time. You can't do that. So you have to choose either you want to see him or you want to see me. Now it's a stiff competition, but again I digress. So I don't mind that, but taking Arthur Chapman's concept, that very concept, the story-driven, I modified it a little bit. I think in his story, he had just bought the equipment for someone. I have put in some kind of psychological, mental illness, bipolar disorder, and that's the reason why I could get, and there was some friendship, but nevertheless the story is basically the same. Both Arthur and I have bought this farm with this accompanying brewery with all the things needed, and then we need to sort of get this farm to flourish once again. Now, making a farm with this story on the exact same map, with the exact same kind of story, both in English, taking that very concept and then putting it directly onto my videos. To be honest, I think that would be cheesy of me. I think that would be, I wouldn't want to do that. So then I thought to myself, well, I think it's a brilliant concept. And I also think that it's a real cool map. So I asked myself, how can I play this map on YouTube, releasing it as content, without really directly taking over or interfering with the author's video, his concept. And then I quickly realized that the only real difference between me and Arthur playing this map, this story, is the language. Well, obviously he's a heck of heck of a lot better talking English than I am, but I suppose that would be obvious why it is so. But the real major difference is that Arthur is doing his content in English. I am also doing most of my content in English, but then if I were to do the kind of the same story that he did, but then but instead doing it in Danish, well, that would be something, well, if not completely different, it would be something different. And that's why I chose to do it in Danish. Because then I could sort of take the same concept that Arthur has made, but then put a real Danish context over it. And I think that makes it different. And the other maps, I'm also going to play a little bit on County Line. I'm not sure whether I want to do a series. I really love County Line. I think it's a cool map. But right now, I must admit, I'm feeling a bit swamped with all the maps that I want to play, both privately and also on YouTube, and also I just had to check how much space I have on my hard drive, and also making my own map and all the other things that I do. The very late but still planned introductory course to astronomy. There's a lot of things that I have going right now, because unfortunately I still don't have a daytime job, so I think I want to do something. And if not else, I think that doing, well, obviously not doing gaming videos, but doing lecture videos, or whatever you want to call it, on YouTube will in some way own my skills as an educator. Because I think that whether you can see your audience, your students or not, obviously it's a huge advantage if you can see your students. But whether you can see your students or not, you need to do some of the same considerations. Who are you talking to? What are the audience here? What are their background? What is the level? The basic and the way you teach it, the didactics, all those things, they go in the same considerations. And so also trying to explain relatively complex problems and concepts in a somewhat easily understood way. It's I wouldn't say it's all over again, because believe it or not, it actually makes it easier to educate or to lecture someone when you can actually see them and you can talk with them and they can ask questions. But at least I think it's going to own my skills, both talking English. I'm going to do the presentations and all the courses in English, but also, yeah, well, you know, in general, owning my skills as an educator. I think that's that's an important thing. And if I can, I must admit, if I can make a living out of educating people, helping people with their science problems via YouTube or any other means, I will definitely do that. So yeah, if you have interest, I know this is a gaming video and keep things separated and all that. If you have an interest in, well, first of all, getting videos about some science problems, science content. I'm a physicist, so obviously my expertise revolves around physics. But I can also do other science. I do science. So if you have interest in any other concepts, I would like to, and you would like to get videos about that, well then reach out. Either here on the comments or via email or anything like that. And then I will start producing content of that subject. But obviously it is only if you have interest in it. Because I already have one course going, and I'm also planning on doing, when that is done, I'm planning on doing a full physics course again in the, it's going to be somewhere around the what's it called, high school level area or something like that. So yeah, that's my plan. And now I have talked an entire field away, and I also think it's about time to end this episode here. It has been a relatively long episode, but like I said, that was the idea since I changed the concept for you having to follow me around doing everything that I do here. Now, obviously, I'm not going to plow everything all the time, because you fortunately only need to plow once. Unless, of course, we plant something. So that means if we plant sunflower or corn, and we're definitely going to do that because we need corn for the piggies. So we're going to need to plow at least once more. But I think it's well, I have thought about how I wanted to do this series, because obviously it's farming simulator, so it's not going to be an action game. It's not going to be instant action and pow 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 and all that. So I was wondering and asking myself, I want to present this as a simulator. It's a farming simulator. Well, you can, of course, you can ask yourself whether this is more an equipment simulator than it is an actual farming simulator. But nevertheless, the name is farming simulator, and it is a simulator in some sense. So what I was asking myself was, if I wanted to represent these videos here, the series that I do here, as a simulator game, not an action game, not a survival game, but a simulator game, then I think I also needed to stay true to that concept. And that means that my videos is going to simulate what the game is going to simulate. And that means if we have to spend almost an hour plowing one field, almost an hour, and that would be an episode, right? And almost another hour plowing another field, well then that's it. That's how the game works. And that is just that's just how it is. And if we need to spend almost an hour spreading slurry or spreading lime or cultivating it or whatever it is, then I'm going to do it like that, because I want to stay true to this concept. And that is why, with very few exceptions, because there might be exceptions, but I will strive my best to not let anything, I'm not going to do anything really in the background, off cam. And also I want to try my best to keep, not trying to fast forward or anything like that, but keep it as real time as much as I can, so that you get the full feeling that we're actually doing a season in Farming Simulator 19. Now, this means, of course, that if you're the kind of type that want, like I said, instant action, then you are definitely going to get bored like hell. You are. This is going to be so boring for you that you might fall asleep watching this. Then this is not a series for you. Then you might want to go watch, well, obviously you can watch someone else's channel. But obviously I wouldn't want you to do that. But you could go watch something like Minecraft, or you can go watch something like The Long Dark, which by the way has come out with a new patch or a new edition. So the third installment in the story is now in place, and that means that I am definitely going to do my best to move forward with the game. But it's simply because I have wanted to spend more time doing Farming Simulator and wanting to try to get that map done. It is a very slow process, but that's just the way it is. And yeah, that's just the way it is. That's what I've been doing. And now I really don't have that much time left on my... I have currently 65.6 gigabytes left on my hard drive. So when we are done plowing this field, I am completely out of necessity having to say goodbye to you and see you in the next episode. So, well, let me just say it right now. Just like always, you know the drill. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And also, if you want to subscribe to my channel and follow me, then do that. Click that subscribe button and that little bell, and then you'll get notifications. And of course, if you think that my videos could be interesting for someone you know, then please lead them to my channel, and then they can subscribe if they so choose to, if they find my content interesting. I hope that you really have enjoyed this video. I know that this is quite a bit longer than the other Fenton Forest videos that I've been making, but I've already given you the reasons why. Other than that, there's nothing more for me to say than, since this is the first episode, which is the 9th, but nevertheless, the first episode in a new way of doing things for me. If you don't find this way of doing things good, if you think that I'm wasting time on doing something that will make you fall asleep, for instance plowing an entire field, well then honestly, these kind of series that I'm making here is simply just not for you. Then you find something else to watch. That's perfectly okay. We are all different and we all have different tastes. While I'm babbling, let's drive the tractor to the other field and spend the last couple of gigabytes I have left on my drive on doing that. Let me see if I can... Yeah, it could. Check the little shortcut here. Yeah. So, if that's your thought, and I'm not judging you, it's perfectly okay. If you don't like these kind of videos, then for the love of God, don't watch them. I am not going to judge you, obviously because I don't know who you are in either case, but I think it's completely okay that you just think, well, heck, this is boring. Why don't you do something interesting? Why the heck am I going to watch you drive back and forth 100 times? Almost. Instead of doing something interesting. Well, I can only answer that this is a simulator. This is what this game is supposed to do. And if I want to stay true to that concept, and that is what I want to do, then I'm going to portray this now in my series as it is. That's just the way it is. Nevertheless, hope you have enjoyed this. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.